Good morning. My name is Councilmember Dan Strauss. I'm elected by the people of Magnolia, Fremont, Finney, Green Lake, Greenwood, Crown Hill, Ballard, and many other micro neighborhoods, and I represent the entire city of Seattle. As a Sound Transit board member, I represent our entire city on that board, as well as the regional interests that impact everyone in the Sound Transit region. Thank you for coming to Bergen Place. You know, as we go through this conversation today, I think about how things have changed. When I was growing up, a 6-story apartment in Ballard was unheard of. This park that we were at, Bergen Place, had a big blue canopy over it, and that building was a single resident occupancy hotel. This park had a very different feel than it has today, where that canopy has been replaced by art, and it just has a very different feel. So as the mayor said, Sound Transit has the funding available to deliver all of its programs in the short term. And without changes to operations and capital delivery, costs will overrun by the time we are supposed to reach Ballard. Sound Transit is now working to achieve cost savings. They've already hired national experts, and they are improving capital and service delivery by including new and best practices in building light rail and operating light rail. But savings and efficiencies cannot save $30 billion by the time we need to reach Ballard. Tomorrow, we as the city of Seattle take the next step. And when I say next step, I mean the first step was merging our departments to be with the Office of the Waterfront, because they have already delivered on state-level, state-size investments in our city. The second was to streamline our permitting to make sure that our permitting system is not delaying and in fact improving Sound Transit infrastructure in our city. And now we are hiring the staff to get this work done. This next step is going to reduce costs and speed delivery of light rail in our city's boundaries. There's been a lot of conversation at Sound Transit about third-party funding. I sure hope that this counts. Sound Transit investments in our city have regional benefits. If we are to build the downtown tunnel, it is required for the spine to reach Everett. If we don't need to build the light rail tunnel in downtown, then we need to use our national experts that are working for Sound Transit now to ensure that our trains are able to use the single tunnel. I'm committed to delivering the Sound Transit 3 plan, and as delays have already occurred and phasing projects are under consideration, we must plan for the future. A decade ago, it was visionary to say at 15th and Market we could get downtown, or light rail would reach West Seattle. Today, it is simply an unmet need. We must plan for a future where catching light rail at 15th and Market, you can go to Northgate or to downtown. When you're in West Seattle catching the train at the junction, you should be able to get downtown or to White Center, Burien, and straight to the airport. Tomorrow, we're taking this next step to make the investment to ensure Sound Transit is able and delivers light rail in our city as cost effectively and fast as possible. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for putting this forward.
Thank you, Councilmember. You know, before I introduce our next speaker, I'd like to recognize a few folks that are standing with us in solidarity, and that's Monty Anderson from the Seattle Building Trades and his fellow workers. Labor's here in the House. King County Councilmember Jorge Barron, thank you for being here. Deputy Mayor Justin Farrell, thank you for being here. Let me see anybody here. You guys speak yourself. Yes, yes, the Carpenters are here. Back. He's on the stage. No, I know who you are. The Carpenters are here, and it's very important because Katie's going to bring them all together on the labor part. I want to also thank some of the Sound Transit board members that aren't here right now for supporting my amendment at last week's board meeting. I want to thank them because we were accused, at least in my remarks, of putting our thumb on the scale, I think was the term that they said a few times. And we're not putting our thumb on the scale for Seattle or West Seattle or Ballard. The weight was already on the scale. This is what the voters in Seattle, the largest city in the state, voted on. So it was not a question of putting our thumb on the scale. It was an issue of making sure that the scale is calibrated right to meet our needs. And so again, I want to thank the members that supported us on that amendment. Next, you're going to hear from County Councilmember Teresa Mosqueda here representing West Seattle, another critical part of our city where we want to be served by light rail, and I look forward to Councilmember Mosqueda's remarks. Councilmember?
Well, good morning. And happy day after Labor Day, everyone. Thank you for all of you who celebrated yesterday and for all who labored. We're here today because we have labored hard to make this vision of Sound Transit 3 a reality. We believe in a future and in a city and in a region that gets us closer to, frankly, what the rest of most of the world has. A connected metropolitan that has green transit, that has a connected future, a resilient future, a future where workers and families and students and elders have equitable access to jobs, education, services, and small business without having to get in their cars. And that future is light rail. I live in West Seattle, and every time I get on Sound Transit, including this weekend after leaving Bumbershoot to get downtown to make the connection to a bus, I sit on light rail and I think, this is how the other half lives. This is what we deserve in Ballard, in West Seattle, in Everett, in Tacoma, in Snohomish, King, and Pierce counties. We all deserve access to what was promised. We need the lines that were communicated back in 2016 to voters, where voters across King and Snohomish and Pierce counties spoke loudly and clearly about the need for us to be connected. They stood shoulder to shoulder with labor and community, and they said yes to Sound Transit 3. They said yes to a connected future. They said yes to building a sound transit system that works for everyone. And now, our job is to deliver on that promise. And let's be crystal clear, as the mayor just said, every single project in Sound Transit 3 matters. From Everett to Tacoma, from Redmond to West Seattle and Ballard, every line is essential. And here in Seattle, these projects aren't just essential and important, they are urgent. These are the communities and residents who are ready and waiting, who voted and are begging to ride these lines. Seattle is growing faster than almost any other city in the country. Our population is booming. This year we surpassed 800,000 people and counting. Councilmember Barron representing this district and myself representing District 8 in West Seattle, we also represent these communities. But this growth can only work if we can get around. We must build a Sound Transit 3 that connects communities, that connects our people with amenities, that makes sure that we can drive up ridership by creating stronger connections through the heart of our city and into major destination points like West Seattle and Ballard, like Everett and Tacoma. Voters in Seattle supported Sound Transit 3 because we were promised relief. We were promised a system that matches the scale of our city's growth and our region's growth. And we can continue to achieve that promise without sacrificing the vision of our regional connectivity by making sure the 2016 voter-approved vision becomes a reality. Because here's the truth. When Seattle succeeds, this region succeeds. We are an economic, cultural, and educational hub for the region. We are a destination for workers and students and sports fans, for families going to concerts and museums and in parks. And in my district, in District 8, in West Seattle, in Delridge even specifically there, where I call home, we are a hub for music lessons for all ages, concerts of all ages, swimming lessons and physical activities for kiddos and elders, childcare, and jobs in small and large companies. Imagine using light rail to get to these gathering spaces without a car and then getting back home again. That is the promise. So from West Seattle to Ballard to across this region, we must make these critical connections and ensure that we are getting closer to that vision, cutting out the reason for us to get in our cars, cutting down on traffic, and cutting CO2 emissions. It is good for the health of our planet, and it is good for the health of our residents. It is good for the health of our regional economy. West Seattle and Ballard have supported and will continue to support the creation of Sound Transit 3 because, as Councilmember Strauss said, we have already stepped in and supported the creation of more housing, more affordable housing, more livable and walkable neighborhoods around the 2B stations. We're creating more access to these amenities for a once-in-a-generational investment in what will be an incredible transit-connected system. This is not just about transit infrastructure. This is about making sure people have a home and a community that is connected, that creates a connection to affordable housing, small businesses. Truly, it will be the backbone of these growing communities. And I want to just paint a picture about what happens if we fail. If we fail to build out Seattle's light rail as promised and create access to these amenities and drive the economic engines of our neighborhood, we fail the entire region. Without strong Seattle connections through Sound Transit 3, the spine does not work. The rail does not reach its full potential. That is why we must keep going. West Seattle and Ballard projects must remain on track. This is a win-win-win that helps Everett, helps Tacoma, helps Bellevue, helps workers and students and elders and families across these 3 counties be able to live freely and make sure that they're able to have greater self-determination. I want to thank and applaud Mayor Harold in concluding with my comments. Thank you for leading on the permitting efforts to put forward the amendments that you already have and for the legislation that Seattle is considering to shave off an entire year for West Seattle and Ballard. And I want to thank SDOT for all of the work that they're doing to creatively think about cost-cutting measures, efficiencies, ways for us to move forward while investing in community amenities and saving money at the same time. I want to thank our now CEO Constantine, for his new vision, for looking at old ways with new eyes and recognizing that we can do this, we can also cut costs, and we must move forward. This, behind us, community, labor, interjurisdictional partnership. This is what partnership and collaboration looks like. Let's remember what the voters said in 2016. They want light rail here in Seattle. They want it across this region. They want it to be built now, and they want us to keep our promise. So let's stay united. We will not be pitted against each other, and let's keep moving forward. Thank you very much.
Let the headline say, Councilmember Mosqueda brought the fire. I was told to bring the fire. I brought the fire. Well stated. This work cannot be done without community transportation advocates, regional advocates. And before I introduce our next speaker, I apologize, Council President Sarah Nelson, I didn't recognize you. Thank you for being here. We look forward to your leadership on these projects as well.